Aotearoa, and welcome to Thursday's Economy Watch, where we follow the economic events and trends that affect Aotearoa. I'm David Chaston, and this is the international edition from interest.co.nz, and today we lead with news the bond market is speaking, passing judgment on the Trump budget, and it doesn't like it. The benchmark US Treasury 10-year, 20-year and 30-year bond yields have all jumped 12 basis points so far today. That means their holders are taking sharp capital losses as the price of safety, and new buyers want sharply higher risk premiums. These rates are closing in on pre-GFC levels now. After a couple of weeks of rises, US mortgage applications fell last week, and that too was because of rising mortgage interest rates. Their benchmark 30-year rate is very much tied to the equivalent US Treasury rates, so next week it'll very likely be that mortgage interest rates will jump sharply too, with a consequential fall in new mortgage applications there. And those rate rises are flowing through to the primary market as well. The overnight US Treasury 20-year bond auction was still well supported, but at a price, with the median yield jumping to 4.97%, up 22 basis points from 4.75% at the prior equivalent event a month ago. It has been a long time since we've seen such a sharp price signal in the primary market. It is actually starker than that. At the prior event, the high bid was 4.81%, and only 6.5% of the auction was allocated at that level. At this latest auction, the high bid was 5.05%, and 41% was allocated at that level. Stagflation, recession fears, and a clearly irresponsible federal budget proposal, just designed for one family's interest, is gnawing away at sentiment and now consumer demand. Overnight, current US crude oil stocks jumped on unexpectedly low demand. These inventories rose by 1.3 million barrels in the week that ended May 16, defying market expectations of a 1.9 million barrel decrease. That is a large unexpected turn. It is too much for the equity markets, which fell sharply on all this bond and demand news. In Canada, and in a surprise, new home prices fell, and rather sharply, to be back to early 2024 levels. In fact, the dip was the sharpest since the pandemic. Across the Pacific, Japan is facing its own bond stress. Yields on long-term Japanese sovereign bonds are soaring as demand for such debt falters, with many market experts saying the situation is unlikely to change anytime soon. Behind the shrinking demand are mounting investor worries over the health of Asia's number 2 economy and the fallout from US trade tariffs. Yields on the 20-year Japanese bond rose yesterday to 2.575%, their highest since 2000. Meanwhile, Taiwanese export orders surged almost 20% in April from a year ago to $56 billion and easily exceeding market expectations of only a 10% increase. This is their best month ever outside the distorted period of the pandemic and its aftermath when volatility reigned. The Indonesian central bank cut its policy rate by 25 basis points to 5.5%, as expected, and taking it back to a level first hit in December 2022. Even though inflation is rising there, it is only at just under 2% and well within its target range. In Australia, the 6-month annualised growth rate in the Westpac Melbourne Institute Leading Index, which indicates the likely pace of economic activity relative to trend 3 to 9 months into the future, slowed to 0.2% in April from 0.5% in March, a stalling that wasn't expected. Join us for the 2025 New Zealand budget release after 2 o'clock this afternoon. Although much has already been signalled, some will have been saved for the theatre of the annual budget release, and this is our opportunity to assess the overall health of the Crown accounts, and we will next likely return to surplus. The US Treasury 10-year yield is now at 4.60%, up a very sharp 12 basis points from this time yesterday. And Wall Street is sharply lower, with the S&P 500 down 1.5% in Wednesday trade. And the price of gold will start today at $3,313 an ounce, up $28 from yesterday. Oil prices are a tad softer today at just over $61.50 a barrel in the US, while the international Brent price is lower at $65 a barrel. And the Kiwi dollar is now at 59.5 US cents, up another 30 basis points from yesterday at this time. Against the Aussie, we're up 10 basis points at 92.3 Australian cents. Against the euro, we're unchanged at 52.5 euro cents. That all means our trade-weighted index starts today still just over 67.6 and up 10 basis points from yesterday. And the Bitcoin price starts today at $106,238 and essentially unchanged from yesterday. At one point, it briefly hit at $109,000 US, but it fell back just as quickly. Volatility of the past 24 hours has been moderate, at just on plus or minus 2%. You can find links to the articles mentioned today in our show notes, and you can get more news affecting the economy in New Zealand from interest.co.nz. Kia ora, I'm David Chaston, and we'll do this again tomorrow.